topic today is finding your ikigai with operations and supply chain. Uh, Ikigai is a Japanese word. What does it mean? It's basically a combination of two words, which means iki means your life and gai means purpose. So I'm going to take you through that how you can find the purpose of your life or your career with operations and supply chain. So let's move, and I will start with have a look on these numbers. On the left hand side, the data shows is basically from the supply chain survey which has been done. And if you see, the dark blue side says 282, 152 in United States, China 304 and 72, India 173 and 19. Basically, what it means, if you see the legend down below, it says the dark blue means how many jobs would be added, and below, the light blue says how many jobs would be reduced. The interesting thing to note over here is, um, in India, the more jobs would be added than it would be removed, and in China, the the figure is somewhere around, if you do the subtraction of 314 to 72, it comes to around 242, whereas in India it comes to almost close to like 154, right? Interesting thing to note is this: the Chinese GDP is almost close to 5 times of Indian GDP, but still you see that the number of the jobs which would be added in Indian economy and the Chinese economy is far more than what is going to be added in United States, United Kingdom, or any other geography. What it also tells you is this: that this field is going to be a very interesting field, in the coming future. Uh, if I come on the right hand side, it gives the story of the growth of e-retail in India right from 2015 till 2022. In fact, it is growing at the rate of CAGR 47%. And if any business grows at that rate, we are very sure that it is going to generate a lot of growth opportunities. Growth opportunities in terms of the people who would work for it, the growth opportunities in terms of the business which is going to get generated, right? And then below that, I have given you a kind of an average supply chain salary in India. Now, this is a ballpark figure. It may not, it may vary from industry to industry, but I would like to draw the fact here is this: in the past 2 decades, most of the graduates and most of the the people who would be passing out from the colleges would aspire for a software engineering job, but that's not the case today. Today, there are industries which are coming up very fast and are giving you the much better options. So these numbers actually give you a perspective of what is going to come and what is going to happen in the future, right? So with this, I would take you, to the specifics of the, of the field, and then probably we will see how exactly it moves. So this is the agenda of the presentation. We will have a look at what exactly the operation research and supply chain means. Then I have introduced some kind of a visual representation. Um, I have included current trends in the industry, a little bit overview of how this subject or this topic is used, software, hardware, trends, and application. So let's go through it, and probably if you have a question, then probably we will take it in the end, and probably will clarify this. So if you see operation research and supply chain, there is a lot of overlap. Uh, Note the difference here. I'm not talking about operations, I'm talking about operations research, right? It's a discipline that deals with a lot of analytical methods. So basically what you're going to do in this particular field is this: trying to see how better you can perform, you know and in case of a supply chain, we are also talking about, it's basically a network. So we are talking a lot about not only about our own organization, but also the organizations which are part of that ecosystem. And going forward, I will give you an example, but this definition give you a kind of a perspective of what exactly, the operations and the supply chain entails. And let's go into the detail now. So this is a visual representation. um, on the right hand side, you have seen a house, right, where we talk about operation research, decision theory, uh, sourcing and production. So basically, if you see in any organization, there are 5 core functions, right? First is marketing and sales, then you have finance, then you have human resource, then you have operations, right? Now operations is the core or the core of any organization. And here we are not talking only about manufacturing, we are talking about core operations even in case of banks, uh, in case of any retail organization, in case of any manufacturing organization, in case of any pharmaceutical organizations. Now there is a different perspective that where exactly the value comes from which function, that's a different thing. So if you come to the left hand side, you see how exactly the value is added at each and every point. And each and every point, if you see raw material supplier company, these are in the supply chain term, these are called as achelions, right? Now the difference, like to explain you in terms of the example, right? So let's take an example of Hindustan Lever, right? Hindustan Lever is a manufacturer of, say, the soap as pears, right? Now Hindustan Lever, for making pears, uh, when you use the pears, it's not only the soap, there is a packaging over and above that. There is the raw material which comes, maybe caustic soda, there is a lot of glycerin used in that. Now that starts from there, right? And in this perspective, when we are talking about, like, say, and this supply chain, so this is the whole thing what you see as a raw material supplier, component supplier, manufacturer, warehouse distributor, and end user. It's a called as a whole thing is called as supply chain. The raw material supplier is called as upward, upstream, and you go down to the downstream. Now here there are 3 things are happening. One is, of course, when the end user buys something, right, he gives the money, right? But he also gives a lot of information that what kind of a product do I need. So this information has to travel back up till the raw material supplier, because there's an effect of it, right? And each and every organization would have, a organization would have a setup, something like what you see in a house. So you will have a sourcing and production department. You will have a distribution and transportation department. Typically, in most of the organization, the way they will differentiate between a supply chain and operations is this: supply chain takes care outside the organization, whereas operations take inside the organization. So when we are talking about, say, sourcing and procurement, right? That is a kind of a interface with the suppliers, right? When we are talking about manufacturing, or you are talking about productivity gains inside the factory, that is typically defined as operations. But in the new context, a lot of things are actually getting kind of a mixed over here, right? So I will take you to the next slide. Now what is, if you see in the past, if I give you this representation, now the world is moving very fast, right? And there are a lot of changes happening because of the new perspective which is coming. We are talking about natural calamities at convit, right? So here we have something called as like current trends in the industry, right? So what we have today is this supply chain digitization. I know everyone knows that digital is playing a big part in any enterprise, right? So here we have supply chain digitization. We have movement of application to the cloud platforms. I think many of would be knowing that what exactly it is, right? So probably um, so we are talking about current trends in the industry. Now in the current trends, I mean, of course, digitization is one part of that. Movement of application to the cloud platforms is, so the cloud platform, typically what was happening earlier was that there were ERP platforms. Now operations is managed a lot by something called as ERP. You must have heard about SAP ERP platform, or you must have heard about Oracle SAP. Now these all platforms are moving to the cloud platforms, primarily because there is a good bandwidth available now. There is availability of computing resources on the cloud platforms, and it gives enough flexibility in terms of providing the applications. While the data is moving on the cloud platform, it is also enabling to do a lot of churning of the data and come up with some kind of decisions on that. So in the past, we have looked for the decision theory. So earlier, the decision, the has to be made based on the data, and that data is freely available now and easily available, so that you can do. And I will give you more details about what exactly it entails. Application of artificial intelligence and machine learning. We'll talk about this. Omni-channel supply chain. Now, what does omni-channel in the supply chain mean? See, what is happening is this: nowadays, in every platform, the number of channels have increased. So we can actually call up Amazon on phone. We can call up Amazon on mobile apps. We can call up Amazon on phone calls or emails. Uh, that is also a perspective, because while it looks very easy in front, at the back end it is pretty complicated. Now, if the channels are not integrated, so if I placed one order on phone, I should be able to track the same order on the mobile app as well. But what does it basically means is that all the data has to be integrated at the back end and should be able to present that data into different channels, right? We are talking about circular supply chain. This is very interesting concept. Uh, Particularly very relevant in the areas of sustainability. Now, when I talk about sustainability, what exactly it means? It means that there is a initiative taken by across the globe, that we have to reuse more. We have to get the items which are more recyclable, right? So when we are talking about result, to give you an example, like Caterpillar, what Caterpillar does is that Caterpillar makes the large excavators. These parts are huge and very costly. But what Caterpillar says is that if you return us the old parts, we will give you certain percentage of discount on the new part. Now what happens to that old part? Now that old parts has reached back to the Caterpillar. They refurbish that, and they reprovide it to the customer. Now this is very good in terms of helping the clients to kind of get the products very easily at a cheaper price. And at the same time, it helps the companies like Caterpillar to kind of fulfill their objectives towards the mother nature. Similarly, we are finding it into many places now, that let's talk about fashion chain. In fashion chain, a lot of companies abroad have started providing provisions, so that while you are buying new clothes, you can actually return the old clothes, because that old clothes, particularly because of the fast fashion, a lot of new fashion comes very fast, right? Use of robotics and internet things is again key aspect which is happening and changing the world. Everyone is talking about robotics nowadays. So I can give you multiple examples. Internet of the things, we are seeing self-driving cars, we are seeing, and this is applications which we are seeing from B2C. But if you see from a B2B, from business to business perspective, they are going to make a huge difference. To give you an example, like windmills. Now windmills are there somewhere very far off. Now how do you kind of do the predictive maintenance? If there are sensors installed in the windmill, I know that there are things may go wrong in next 3 months or 4 months, and that's why I can plan the things, so I can save the cost. I can save the things going totally wrong and kind of getting kaput at that moment. Application of blockchain. I think there has been blockchain is the technology which is coming. Everyone is looking. Recently, there was a news that Supreme Court of India has allowed cryptocurrencies, but cryptocurrencies is one application of blockchain. Blockchain application is going to open up the whole industry. Let's talk about the ledgers. Think about that ERPs. The data is residing, say, in Mahindra and Mahindra. Now Mahindra and Mahindra doesn't want to give its data to the supplier itself, because of course you don't want to share, because that's your kind of a proprietary data and from which you make money. right? But think about, like, if I can share those datas, but specifically relevant to that particular suppliers, now blockchain would be able to enable that. Application of virtual reality and augmented reality, every one of us know about this. People have been using, VR sets, but every one of us know that, I mean, if I am able to see the parts, or if I am able to see the whole model, before it is really kind of a come into the picture and take kind of a chance. To give you a perspective, like HP printers, if you are using HP printers, are designed, and the design collaborations happens across the globe. It's not only at one places. So they, at Taiwan, they will design maybe, one part. At China, they will design one part, or maybe the assembling of the parts would happen in China, but the designing might happen in US. Might, and how do they do that? I mean, this is virtual reality, collaboration between the data, applications on the cloud. So these all things come together, to kind of make things happen and easier. So there are some practical difficulties in the past which are now being overcome with these kind of technologies. So robotic process automation, I'm sure a lot of people might be using internet banking. So nowadays in the internet banking, you have a help bot, right? And you type there, and it takes you the relevant link. What is that? That is robotic process automation. But at the back end, what happens is this: like suppose an ICICI bank is having, like, say, 200 customer support agent. It would be able to reduce the same thing, maybe are able to deliver the same or better level of the services with 60 or 70 people. Now this is what is happening as a part of the operations. Now all these current trends are going to be specific to that particular industry. How you are going to use is kind of a, you can use any one of these technologies to make of a difference, right? So let's go into more detail, right? So to give you an example, I was talking about those technologies, and now this is specific to these industries. Let's talk about fashion industry. Now what is happening in the fashion industry today is this: I hope everyone must have heard about Zara. So Zara is a fast fashion chain. What they do is this: they change the, you know the season. Earlier what used to happen is this: the fashion change used to happen every twice a year. So you will have the fashion parades or a fashion shows, and the designers will go over there. They will look into new designs, they will buy the designs, they will produce, and the fashion will come to the market. So there would be kind of and during April it will come, or during, so there would be spring or there would be fall seasons, right? But now what is happening is this: with the fast fashion, if you have a digital supply chain, you would be able to know, because see, in the fast fashion you can bring in new products, but if they don't sell in the market, then the companies incur huge losses, right? How do I do that? Now that is where actually the application of new technologies as AI or ML are coming in. Like in artificial intelligence, typically in these fashion industries, what used to happen is the merchandiser is a one role. So merchandiser would think that you could find these many crossed blue colored shirts would be sold into the market. Say in this a store in Chennai, they will sell, say, 1,000 shirts. But what if they are able to sell only 50? Then what happens? They will put up a clearance sales for 70%, right? On the clearance sale, the company loses lot of margin. What if that, if I developed kind of an artificial intelligence platform, I develop a code or a program which tells me that, no, in this season, I don't think you would be able to sell 1,000. Maybe you are able to sell only 100. Now the merchandiser know that I am sending 1,000, but I would be able to, machine is telling me that I'm going to sell 100. So he may not send 100, but he may say only 500. Now this is where actually the world is moving now. All right. And that's where, I mean, probably the opportunities are rising. You as a graduate coming out, or a new people coming out from the, I mean, this gives a perspective of what exactly, how exactly you can help, what exactly you can do, right? To understand the industry is a very important aspect of giving a service. To give you an example, like omni-channel customer experience, uh, I have, if I don't have an omni-channel, what I will do, I will keep 1,000 pieces for my mobile app. I will keep 1,000 pieces for my online marketing, and I will keep 1,000 pieces for my stores. What if my mobile app, nobody is buying from my mobile app, but my store everyone is buying? So my store has a shortage, but my mobile app has a surplus. Now what if all these three are combined, and I keep 3,000 together, I get wherever I get the order and I supply for that. That's the order response, because the customer today, when they give the order, they want immediately, right? In fact, Amazon is trying to deliver, in some cities they are trying to deliver within 2 hours or 3 hours. How they are able to do it? In some cases, with the technologies like AI or ML, they would be able to predict that when the order will come. So if you are an Amazon seller today, they will give you a response saying that last month you sold this much, this month there is a possibility for this particular SKU you will sell this much. So as a as a fresh person, probably these are the areas which would help you to understand that where exactly the life is going to change. And particularly with this new perspective conveyed, where the most of the supply chain was aligned to the China, probably I may have to, a lot of companies may diversify to different countries. It may go to Vietnam, it may go to Bangladesh, it may go to somewhere else, and that's where the collaboration is required even further. Right. So let's take an example of, say, life science industry. Now this is the key thing, and I can give you an example of, say, uh, convert kits. Now if I have to develop something very fast, how do I do that? Right. And there are multiple aspects to that. The product has to be developed. That means that there has to be a kind of a research collaboration, right? I have, once it is developed and I am sure about it, it has to go for a compliance regulation to the agencies like FDA or specific agencies in Europe. Then I have to give a contract for contract manufacturing, and then probably supply across the globe. That calls for that I should be aware about global compliance regulatory environment, right? I should be aware. I should not produce more. Not today, after September, if convert is gone, what I will do with that inventory? I have to keep it, and that is totally waste for me. So what I would do is this. Very good example in this is this Dell. I mean, Dell is a very good example of how it is making computer parts which is demand driven. So I will produce that much only where how much getting. So the whole idea is people are going toward lean manufacturing. What does lean manufacturing means is this, I would produce only that much which I can actually sell in the market, or whether the requirement of the market is. Now this is very easier said than done. Very few companies in the world like Toyotas are able to do it. As a fresh person, when you come out of the college, if you have the knowledge of these specific models, it will help you to kind of project yourself, to kind of go to the company and say that I understand this perspective, I want to go into that path, and I'm preparing myself for that, right? And because of the technologies which are coming in, a lot of things are changing. To give you an example, in auto industries, 10 years or 15 years down the line, who would have thought that many new generation may not just think about buying the car? They may just, so you have a self-drive option, right? So you just hire the car from Zoom and use it for a month. You have a subscription model today. uh, Apart from that, as the economies are changing, there are new economies which are coming in, right? And those economies have to be kind of tackled. So how do I tackle those economies? uh, Suddenly you will find that India as a country is coming up. There is more power to buy, right? As I was showing in the first slide, so more people will get the job, so they will have more salaries, and the salaries will grow because the demand will grow, and then the people will buy goods. If they will buy the goods, then you have to localize those goods. That means that you have to have the product which is kind of specific to that particular market. That also calls for supplier collaboration. So we saw that how exactly the supplier supplies to the manufacturer. Now if the new product has to be launched, that means that the supplier should also be able to produce that. So in automotive industry, it might be that the headlights or maybe the Indian customers are more tuned to hear uh, you know uh, maybe the music system which has more beats. So this has to be customized. All right, it may be due to the local compliance. So this gives you a perspective of how exactly the industry is changing, and then probably you need to gear up to to kind of understand those perspective and prepare yourself. So I'll move to the next slide. So we are talking about now going to the specifics of the software and the hardware trends. So we talked about artificial intelligence. Now what exactly is the artificial intelligence? So artificial intelligence is a vast field. There are multiple applications of that. Computer vision is one application of that. Neuro linguistic programming is again, OCR kind of a thing is again. So when we are talking about computer vision, how exactly it can help? A lot of people would have seen now there are videos coming in for Convit that it is able to track how far the people are walking through the camera itself. Right, one of the intelligence. In retail perspective, earlier the retail, so your neighborhood shop would place an order, all right? So give me 10 pack of Nirma, give me 10 pack of Surf, give me 10 pack of these things. And then the guy had the person who comes from say Hindustan Levers to take the order, the sales officer, he would have to like kind of a track that how exactly how exactly I would kind of uh, track that how much he has bought last month. So he will have to take out the paper, or he will have to look at the ERP platform. Think about this, that he has a app in his mobile, and he just take a photograph of his shelf, and through the computer vision it is able to identify what products are already there in the shelf. And through the ERP platform or through the supplier collaboration platform, I am able to check how much how many customers, how many product he has bought last month. And then I can give him an idea that fine, you sold last month this much, this month you can buy this. This can be used for multiple things, right? To identify your gesture. Just think about it, in automotive industry today, there are technologies coming from computer vision, that from the computer I am able to track that if my two or three senses are going down. So if I am tilting my head by say 20 degrees, I am going to fall asleep, and that might actually kind of raise an alarm so that I wake up, and it might reduce the accidents. So so there are specific applications which are coming into the picture, right? Similarly with the cloud computing platforms. So once you have a cloud computing platform, you must have heard about AWS, Azure platforms, Google platforms. They are coming up with specific areas. But mind these there are two specific areas. One is on the technical side, the other is on the functional side. Now while today a lot of people do the coding, learn code, so you learn Java, you learn Python, you learn a lot of languages. But those languages are good in terms of if someone tells you what to code. There is also an area to understand that what exactly to code, right? So let's take that example of data analytics and dashboard. So if I in the dashboard, I want to see that that would help in my business. But what will help in my business? What should be there? What are the KPIs? What are the metrics which I need to include there, right? So that's something which which one should understand and build on it. How you will understand and build on it is probably, I think, taking some kind of a course, taking some kind of a refresher course. Unfortunately, what my understanding is this. I have been in the industry for last 20 years. I myself did a mechanical engineering and then MBA from one of the most reputed institutes. But what I see is this: today the course are not updated in most of the institutes. These are taken as a sideline courses, which unfortunately do not prepare you for the industry, right? Uh, so probably I think, and this is a vast field, you may have to look it for some specific areas where you want to kind of grow and understand, because this knowledge is the ocean, right? Really need to understand one or two areas where you have an interest. So you might be having an interest in self-driving cars. Now in the self-driving car itself would be a bundle of technologies. It will use computer vision, so it will identify say traffic marker. The speed should not go beyond 50 in this road or 40, so it would be able to read automatically and reduce the speed, right? Or it might be the robotics, right? In the self-driving car itself, right? So you have today uh, what you call no mechanical linkages kind of a cars which are coming in into the market. So these might be a mix of it. Same thing with the IoT as well. So IoT might be running in the self-driving cars, right? In the self-driving vehicles itself might be using RFID to open the car. So, and some applications are already there. So RFID, you might be using your in the colleges, you might be using your identity card to open the door, and your chip card which you use is a very good example of for the payment. So you might be having a Visa card, it has a chip enabled in it, right? So that's a there is an application, huge application in the industry itself. To give you an example of RFID in say fashion industry, in the fashion industry, when the stitching of the clothes happen, right, it can bring in a lot of productivity. So I know that how my product is moving across the supply line, even in case of automotive industries. So when in the supply line, in the assembly line, when the product is moving, I can see how exactly how much time one unit has taken, and accordingly I can change my um, uh, productive timings, or maybe I can introduce or reduce one supply assembly line itself. If I can sense the demand in the outside market saying that okay fine, it's not a seasonal thing, like say due to the COVID or maybe due to the earthquake, if I am able to kind of decide that fine, my productivities or my sales is going to go dramatically down, I can decide that how many lines would help me serve for how many orders which I am predicting through the system. So probably I am selling, last year I was selling 1,000 cars. This year, because of these variables, I can do predictive analytics, right? And I can predict that I may be able to sell only 100 cars. And that so how do I reduce the number of kind of a supply lines? So this is a kind of a give you a perspective. Now this is the whole big perspective of today's. So you have the technology landscape. Please do not get confused with this. It's very simple, right? So if you see from a supply chain perspective, uh, there are, on the left hand side, there are diversified platforms. When I say diversified platforms, they are the platform which offers more than one, two, or areas specific to the enterprise. Then there are areas like, when we are talking about source and plan. So when I'm making a new model of a car, I need to know that, who exactly would be able to supply me for some specific products. So I should be able to know the capability of those suppliers. I should be able to check that what is the reliability of those suppliers. I should be able to kind of see that, I mean, from a location perspective, that whether they have, some of the companies might be having locations across the globe. So these all softwares, would help you out to kind of do. Now there are different models in this. SAP would be able to give you more, because they have an ERP platform also, they have a supply chain platform also, so they have different models. Different companies use different products, they might be a mix of product, right? Or they might be one single platforms. Now this is a strategy which sometimes people follow, like they don't want to get tied in only to SAP, so they will have one SAP, or they may have Zycus, then may have Relex softwares. So even like when we are talking about Dassault system, Dassault is pretty strong in terms of PLM collaboration, in terms of uh, the data management, but they might not be very good in terms of the sourcing or the contract management, right? So it all depends upon what capabilities. The good part is this, uh, some of them might be useful for you to kind of look into that, but once you have a look into that, I will take you to another slide, that what exactly it entails in each and every these softwares. So there would always be two part in this. One is of course the software and the coding part of it. The another is on the operations part of it. When I say operation, or the functional part of it. So let's go into another slide, right? So if I say this is the software programming and the languages, then look at it as as a pyramid, right? So if you look at the pyramid primarily, At the top, at the bottom, you have IT infrastructure. Now, the IT infrastructure today is primarily the cloud platforms, but you still have, some of the softwares which use, the traditional infrastructure, which might be, the cloud server, sorry, the enterprise server architecture, right? So that's it. Uh, but it is primarily now moving into the all IT infrastructures are primarily new platforms are moving towards these cloud platforms, or it might be a hybrid platform, or it might be a private cloud platform, right? Some of the programming in the mid, we have the programming frameworks. So in the programming frameworks, these are the most popular. I think if someone of you would have done some courses and all those things, you would get to know that these are the most popular. Java remains the most popular, but now there are new flavors of Java which is coming, like Angular, React.js. React.js is supported by Google. Angular is supported by Facebook, right? And backend technology. So these are primarily the frameworks, right? These, what you will do with these programming frameworks and languages is primarily you will design the front end. When I say front end, what exactly it means that the dashboard what you see in the front of you, right? So you will make the charts, you will make the graphs, those kind of a things. And what you will also do is this, you will make the color graph, those kind of a things. It also kind of a connect to the uh, backend. And in the backend, you have a Node.js or SQL, which will primarily, do the lot of fetching of the data kind of a services. Now, having said this, this is a very overview of this. There are more technologies. There's more depth to this, right? I have just included to give you a kind of a flavor of this. Now, when we are talking about application platforms, now they have their own programming languages, the way they customize, they have their own platforms. But the difference is this: you can decide, some company may decide to kind of develop it from scratch. Some company may decide to kind of take it as a platform. So if I am a manufacturer, or if I am a fashion service provider, I may not like to develop my own technologies. I may typically go with the JDA, SAP, Oracle. But what remains the fact is this, that I may need to do some customization. I may need to do some kind of a support. So I may still need the people who may have the programming frameworks or languages expertise, right? But having said that, I think understanding business is the most important aspect. And that's how I take you to the next slide, right? So you have the different career paths in the software organization. So you have two or three choices with you. What are the choices once you comes out of the college to work in the industry? One is this, that you go for a non-software companies, so you can work with manufacturing. I'm talking in perspective of operations in the supply chain itself, right? So you can actually go into the non-software, where that is a traditional core jobs which is now coming up, right? Then last 2 decades were defined by software organizations. How does the software organization work? Is this typically you have one is this, is the coding, which is again the operations part of the software company, right? What is the core expertise of a software company? Is to develop the software. Who develops the software? It's a software coder. Who is a software coder? He is an operations man in the software company. All right. So what do you do? So you have two options. One is functional business analysis. That means you need to decide that how exactly the configuration screens would come, what data I need to use, what exactly I mean the customer might be needing, who are you going to use my software. So that's their role, right? When I say coder, basically I need to, I'm developing something. So I'm developing a say a platform. Now that platform, how exactly it will work, what codes I have to write to kind of a display the say a graph, what codes I have to write to get the data into the platform, so that it can give those real-time alerts, or it can give me a kind of send me an SMS, or it can be kind of a show me an order in my front end. To get that order, I need to go to the database, get that order ID, get that SKUs which need to be developed, all those things. And the last part is this, which is very relevant in many of the companies now, is analytics. Why? Because the data is now available very readily. You are catching huge amount of data which you are able to store and reuse it. So there are data scientists which are now actually, would be able to fetch that data, run, the algorithms, run, specific codes. What they will do is this, they will slice and dice the data, They will run the algorithms on those data, and then probably they will build the recommendation models, or they will give you a kind of business intelligence, KPIs, dashboards to take the business decision. So from a CEO's perspective, I may need a certain set of data. To give you an example, which of my products are selling fast, which of my products are not selling good, which of my products have a higher margin, which of my products. Now this becomes complex when you have 1,000 and 2,000 or 5,000 products you are selling at a different price point, because in Diwali you would have changed the price, in Gudi Padwa you must have changed the price, or maybe during Christmas you must have changed the price. Now those all data plus then you have a weather data. So then because that day it was raining, so the sale has come down, or that day I mean probably because of the lockdown people didn't come. All those theories have to be. The other part is on the non-software. Now in the non-software part, that's where actually the operations is the key part of it, right? And that's where the flesh and the kind of the juice is there, right? So when I'm saying manufacturing operations, what exactly manufacturing operations mean is this: the person who might be, like, say, a head of the operations, right? He might be, to give you an example, like in automotive component supplier. So if I am making a dashboard, or say instrument cluster. Now, if I am producing instrument cluster, that means that it has to be produced in the machines. Those machines have to be, taken care of in terms of maintenance. Not only that, I have to take care of that, how much time each worker works, how much time, what is the productivity of each machine, all those things, right? This is a core operations. This is a core operations in terms of manufacturing, or it may be in case of a pharma, so how many medicines are going to be produced. The other thing is purchase and procurement, right? So earlier I told you that there are 5 core functions of an enterprise. Operations is one of them. These are all subsets of that operations. When I'm talking about manufacturing operations, I'm talking about operations which happens inside the manufacturing, right? So there are specific theories. If someone would have read the book kind of a goal, right, it says bottleneck theory. How do you solve that? Those are the things which you will do in case of retail operations. So a lot of retail companies, B2C companies have come. We talk about Swiggy, we talk about Milk Basket, we talk about Big Basket. All those companies, how do they survive, right? They are built on operations. So once you order, there is a series of activity which happens at the back end. Now someone has to manage those operations, and there are a lot of opportunities coming in. Why? Because this is getting converted from an unorganized sector to organized sector. So you will see a lot of job opportunities coming in these sectors, and they will become more formal. So we are moving towards the economies as developed economies. So when you will go at so when I was in UK, I would never see the small shops like what I would see in India. They were very minimal, right? Because most of the businesses were done by the supermarkets. Now supermarket or a hypermarket are very much organized business. There almost 90 to 95% of the retail is organized. When I say organized, that what does it means? That you would have a distribution center, you would have a very well laid out plans. The large trucks would come, they would disassemble there, they will break out. All those breakouts would be delivered to different. Now there is a statistics, strategy, and planning behind that. Someone has to plan out, and who would plan? The person who has operations and a manufacturing or maybe supply chain background. Similarly, for purchase and procurement, I need to purchase good items which would work. If my component is faulty, my car would also become faulty, right? So I have to purchase right price, right quantity at the right time, so that there is no inventory, and my final product comes at a right price at the right time, so that I can deliver the customer delight. So but how you will but how the product will go? The product will go through transportation and logistics. What does it mean? That if from Chennai to Bangalore I have 4 routes, which route do I take? Is it that the shortest route is good? No, that's because there are a lot of tolls in that. So if I have to pay 1% of the value of my car on that toll, all those things have to be planned, right? Do I have to warehousing? To give you a very good example, before the GST came in, a lot of warehouses used to be in Hosur, because that was the boundaries place of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. And With GST, all those things will change. Why I was keeping my warehouse and distribution over there? Because it used to help in terms of my taxation, because the two states might have a different taxation, because the sales tax was a taxation for the state list. Now with the coming of the GST, it's a standardized taxes across. So it doesn't make any sense for me to keep a warehouse in Hosur because of the cost issues. So all those economics have to be planned. Who will plan it? There is someone has to sit and do that job, and he will get paid for that. So the whole job scenarios is changing, right? And that will involve a lot of planning and forecasting. What does it mean? Is this that how many, products I'm going to sell in a particular season, and it depends upon product to product. So a fashion product might be totally different because their shelf life is different. uh, Whereas in case of the items like automotive, there's a lot of dependency on on your national GDP itself. If the economy is growing, a lot of people will get more jobs, and then they will buy more aspirable items like car. So probably the ones who might be going into a bike might aspire for a bigger car, and that's how the growth might come. Whereas in the case of a fashion, it might be totally different. So all those things, planning and forecasting has to be done. And why someone has to do it? Because if I forecast and do the planning, then only I can suppose if the plan is suppose the economy is growing at a very fast rate, and I am able to produce 10,000 car today, and 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, the requirement might come for say 40,000 cars, but I have only one factory. I have only two warehouse. How do I plan? So the 3 years planning is typically done. All those things have to be done by the people who are coming with those knowledge and experience, right? So typical growth chart is this: you will join as an assistant manager in any large corporation. They will promote you as a deputy manager, manager, senior manager. I think the designations move, but what I think is important is to also understand that how much upgradation of the knowledge is happening at each and every step. So is a very key aspect to it, right? So probably I think this would make clear of from the Roshan, do I am running out of the time?
You can have time, sir. You can just
Okay,
proceed. If you have more details, you can just take it to the participants, sir.
fine. Then where does it takes? So probably I think we were talking about in the past, if I show you this, if I show you this, if I show you this, you would have got a perspective that where exactly this is moving on, right? Now if I tell you from all these previous this thing, few things come out very clearly. Is this supply chain and operations is a very important aspect of any enterprise, right? So while finance, marketing, and sales play a specific part, these parts are good when your competitive scenarios are not that strong. Where exactly you make, see how exactly the Unilever became such a big brand. So the Pepsi, to take an example of Coke, they are not only because they are spending money on marketing. They are a big brand because they are able to make those products available at the right time at the right place. You go to the any nook and corner of the product, you will find a Unilever product, you will find a Coke, you will find Pepsi, but you may not find a smaller brand. How they are able to do this? By optimizing their supply chain and operations. How much to produce, how to ship, where to ship, when to ship, right? And all those things. And see, in all those systems, the inefficiencies get built in. To give you an example, warehouse distributor or a end customer retailer say that I will give you the money only after 60 days. That means the distributor would not be able to pay the manufacturer. The manufacturer would not be able to pay the component supplier. If the component supplier doesn't get the money on the time, he may not kind of buy the raw material at the right time, and suddenly you find that there is a issue like COVID, or maybe there is an issue like earthquakes, and then suddenly the price have gone. The whole supply chain or the operations would get disrupted. So to give you an idea that why supply chain and operations are becoming so important in this perspective is this: because the competitive scenarios have changed. There's a huge competition in the market, right? The whole market is changing. So to give you an example again from Unilever, what challenges today Unilever feel have in the market? uh, Unilever has to sell, say, uh, Pears soap in the market. Now there are multiple brands today available in Amazon, right? How do I make sure that my pricing is adequate, my products are available, and so one part was that I do lot of spend in the marketing. But today now you have a WhatsApp, now you have the platforms like Facebook, where you have the ROI kind of a thing coming in from the digital marketing. So maybe a smaller manufacturer can do a very targeted kind of a ad campaign, and I may lose out. I can use, I have to reply to each and every query of the customers. So I have to use RPA, that is robotic process automation. So the technology gives the power not only to the large organizations, but to the smaller organization. A smaller organization can grow. The only thing is this capability of execution. If you are able to execute, and how you are going to execute, by operations and supply chain. That's the lever today in any market. It used to be there in US and UK. It is moving to the developed economies. China has already moved in last 20-25 years. But my view is this: after this COVID, probably I think a lot of people would like to diversify their supply chain, not only to China, but to other nations as well. Right. And that's where the professionals in the operations and supply chain can aspire for a global career, and Indian talent is anyway accepted across the globe. So you have multiple opportunities opening up because of this field which is coming up, right? So finally, the final slide is this: where does it takes you? I mean, what all options does it kind of produce in front of you? So of course, for any graduate which has come out from the college, typically, mechanical and electrical are the field which is more related to operations. But the computer science graduates can also opt for going towards the software side. All right. So you can opt for post graduation in supply chain management. So two large, there are a couple of institutes which are very well known for supply chain and operations, right? You can go for that, and then probably try for business analyst, uh, kind of courses. You can go for certification in data analytics, computer engineering, or cloud computing, or data engineering. These courses will take you to the data analytics side. But you know typically what I found from my experience, I have worked in the software industry for a pretty long time now. A lot of people come with a lot of knowledge in the coding and software, but they do not have a very adequate knowledge in terms of how the business works, or what exactly running an enterprise means, right? That is actually kind of a shortcoming, because if you don't understand business, then you would not be able to appreciate what client is asking for, right? So self-driving vehicles are going to be a big thing now. I think the first step, we are going into EV in next 2-3 years. Anyway, we are seeing a lot of EVs. Once the EVs comes in, then probably you will see a lot of mechanical linkages going out of the vehicles, and that's where the self-driving vehicles will kick in. We have already seen this in the aerospace. In the aerospace, you have a system which is called as fly-by-wire system. uh, my take is this: the drive by wire system is also going to come in the next 5-6 years or 10 years. It has to come. Then you will see a lot of new things coming in terms of route optimization, in terms of artificial intelligence, in terms of machine learning. And then this whole space is going to change, right? uh, of course, you have option of PhD, which is like 5 to 6 years if you want to invest in that. So that's where is the kind of a give you an overview of the field, what exactly it is.